Ever wonder, like, how we figured out how to test stuff in science?
Yeah, like instead of just believing whatever people told us.
Right. Or how we can send messages, like, instantly across the world without even, like, wires or anything.
It's crazy to think about all the brilliant minds that made all this possible.
Exactly. So today, we're going to meet some of the biggest game changers in history, the scientists and engineers who basically shaped our world.
Yeah, the people whose ideas and inventions still kind of blow our minds. We'll be looking at the pioneers of the scientific method, computing, engineering, and even how we communicate.
It's super cool to see how so many of these innovators, some from like way back in the day, laid the groundwork for the tech and ideas we like totally take for granted.
Seriously, they were way ahead of their time.
Okay, so let's start with a question that's been around forever. How do we actually know what's true?
Like, for centuries, people just accepted what they were told, by authorities and stuff.
Until Francis Bacon came along and was like, hold up, let's test this stuff out. He completely changed the game.
Right. He was all about observation and experimentation, actually testing ideas instead of just blindly believing them.
It's like in science class now, when you do experiments, you're not just memorizing facts from a textbook. You're seeing how things actually work.
Hands-on learning. And that approach can lead to some pretty amazing discoveries, just like it did for George Washington Carver.
Oh yeah, Carver was amazing. He took science out of the lab and into the fields, working directly with farmers.
He was all about practical solutions to real-world problems.
And he revolutionized agriculture, came up with things like crop rotation, which helped people and the environment.
Talk about a win-win.
Speaking of breaking barriers, there's Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman in space.
What an inspiration.
And she has a background in both chemical engineering and medicine, showing how diverse skills can lead to incredible achievements.
It really shows that you don't have to be limited to just one field.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about asking the right questions, but what about the tools we use to find the answers? That's where our computing giants come in.
Like our phones and computers and the internet.
Exactly. Ever sent a text or watched a video online?
Who hasn't?
Well, that's all possible, thanks to information theory, which was developed by this guy, Claude Shannon.
I've heard of him. He figured out how to transmit data reliably, even when there's noise or errors.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it. The internet literally wouldn't work without his insights.
And then there's John von Neumann, who not only helped design early computers, but also kind of predicted artificial intelligence, way before it was even a thing.
It's like he saw the future of computing. His work on self-replicating machines laid the groundwork for things like artificial life and machine learning, which are huge right now.
Yeah, he was super ahead of his time.
Okay, so now let's talk about Alan Turing.
The Turing test, right?
Well, he also came up with something called the Turing machine, which is a theoretical model of computation that basically set the stage for how computers work today.
It's like a machine that can read instructions and do calculations, which is basically what every computer does now.
Right. Plus, Turing's code-breaking work during World War II, shows how something as abstract as computer science can have a massive impact on, actual historical events.
It just shows that knowledge is power.
And speaking of making things easier, there's Grace Hopper, who created the first compiler.
A compiler? What's that?
It's a program that translates human-readable code into instructions that computers can understand.
Oh, so it's like a translator for computers.
Exactly. And her work made programming way more accessible, which helped kickstart the whole tech revolution we're seeing today.
That's amazing. Imagine having to write code in the language computers use. It'd be like learning a whole new language. Seriously. Okay, so we've covered asking questions, crunching data. Now let's move on to engineering. The masterminds who dreamed up incredible machines and structures.
Like bridges and skyscrapers.
Exactly. Let's start with Leonardo da Vinci, the ultimate Renaissance man.
I know him. He painted the Mona Lisa.
Right. But he was also an incredible engineer. His notebooks are full of designs for flying machines, way before anyone even thought that was possible.
His ideas were so ahead of their time, they basically foreshadowed modern engineering marvels like helicopters and airplanes.
Right. Talk about a visionary. Now let's jump to Michael Faraday, who discovered something called electromagnetic induction.
I vaguely remember that from physics class.
Well, it's the principle behind electric motors and generators, things we use literally all the time.
Oh, wow. So he had a huge impact on our everyday lives.
Totally. Imagine trying to generate electricity by hand cranking a generator. That's how it was before Faraday's breakthrough.
It's hard to imagine life without electricity now. I know, right? And speaking of power, there's Nikola Tesla, the genius behind alternating current, or AC, which is what powers our homes and cities today.
Oh, yeah, he was like a rival to Thomas Edison, right?
Exactly. He sparked a whole war of currents because AC was a much better way to transmit electricity than direct current, or DC, which is what Edison was pushing for.
So Tesla basically won that war, right?
Totally. His vision for AC made electricity way more efficient and accessible.
Good thing, too.
From powering our world to making us smile, let's talk about Rube Goldberg, who was known for his ridiculously complicated machines that do the simplest tasks.
Like what kind of machines?
Oh, like a machine that uses a series of dominoes and levers and pulleys just to pour a glass of water.
That sounds pretty wild.
I know, right? Mm-hmm. But his work shows the creativity and problem solving that's at the heart of engineering. It's a reminder that sometimes the most fun solutions are also the most unexpected.
Totally. Thinking outside the box is so important.
Absolutely. Okay, lastly, let's explore how we share all this incredible knowledge and innovation with the world.
So like communication.
Exactly. Enter Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web.
The World Wide Web? That's like the internet, right?
Pretty much. Think about how easy it is to look up information online, whether it's for school or just for fun.
Yeah, I use the internet all the time.
Well, that's all thanks to Berners-Lee's vision of making information easily accessible to anyone with an internet connection.
It's like he opened up a giant digital library for the whole world.
Exactly. And making sure all those computers can actually talk to each other, that's no easy feat.
So how did they do that?
That's where Vinton Cerf and Robert Kahn come in. They created TC+IP, which is like the set of rules that governs internet traffic.
So it's like traffic lights and road signs for the internet.
Exactly. Without their protocols, our connected world wouldn't even exist. It's like they created the language that allows computers to share information.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
And last but not least, we have Guglielmo Marconi, who was a pioneer in radio wave communication.
Radio waves?
Yep. His work led to the development of radio, television, and all the wireless technology we use today.
It's crazy how one discovery can lead to so many others.
Seriously, it's like a chain reaction of innovation, constantly building on previous breakthroughs.
And it's still happening today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there you have it, a whole bunch of scientists and engineers who changed the world with their amazing ideas. Hopefully you're feeling inspired to learn more about them and maybe even discover your own inner innovator.
Definitely. There's so much more to explore.
Thanks for joining us.